In this inquiry, we're trying to find the best spot in school to place a solar panel. And in this level two, we're going to log data when a certain condition is met. For example, when light hitting the microbit hit a certain threshold, then we will start the logging process. And to do that, we will be using the data logger extension come with the microbit, and it's only available on microbit number 2 or version 2. Let's head over to makecode.microbit.org. I recommend to sign in with our account just so that we could store all the project in one place. Go and make a new project, log data with conditions. Okay, so first thing is we're going to get rid of the forever loop or block, and we're going to add the extension data logger. Once you do that, it will appear right under math. And when we are starting logging data, we're going to create some variable. So we're going to say logging as our variable. You can name it data. These block will appear. We're going to drag it out over here. So when I starting the microbit, we don't want any data collection to happen yet. So we can tell that to set logging to false. So then you need to go under logic and go down to the bottom. There'll be a hexagon block. I know the shape doesn't match, but it worked in this case. And to give some indication that the data logging process hasn't started yet, we're going to use a show icon, and it's going to be an X for now. Now, it's also important that we set our column. What are the data we want to collect, and what do we want to call them? So go to set column, drag it out under, and then we can say light. To demonstrate that we can add more than one variable, we can put another one in, sound or temperature. Now, I want to initiate data logging using an input. And so I will be going into input, drag out the first button. When button is on the microbit is pressed, then I will start logging the data. So we're going to duplicate this block, drag it in here, but now setting it to true and give it some indication of it's happening. So here is a check mark. And then the next thing is I want to collect my data every certain interval of time. So let's say I will go under the loop because it's repetition. I will go down and select this one. So every second, I would like to do the following. So if the logging is happening and the light in the room reaching more than 120 as the value, why 120? So light in the microbit come between 0 and 255 RBG value. So 120 is somewhere in the midpoint. Then I'll go down to logic, get out this block, if then, and I need to go back to logic. We're going to be visiting logic quite a lot and drag out this Boolean, which allow us to do two conditions at the same time. So if logging is happening, I just need to go back to variable, drag out that logging. Once again, I know the shape doesn't match, but it worked in this case, and I will explain the meaning in a moment. And go back to logic again, drag out this comparison block, and just make sure that you're snapping it where the two red dot align. Otherwise, it may launch out the entire hexagon that we have before. So when light level, go down to input or go up to input, put light level in there because that's where the data come directly from the sensor of the microbit, the light sensor. And you're going to type in 120 and we set that. It could be if it's greater than 120. Then collect the data. So we need to go back to data logger and we're going to say, hey, log the data for me now. So drag the first one out. And I'm going to define that as to be light. The value, I'll be setting it to the light level detection or sensor of the microbit. The second one I'm going to do is sound. So when sound level, sound. So let's translate this. When logging is happening and light level in the room or in that particular spot greater than 120, then log in the data for me. Else mean if the condition doesn't meet the above, that means the light level could be equal to or less than 120. then we stop the logging process. So we duplicate this. Probably better to duplicate the other, but I can just easily change it to false. All right, almost done. What if we want to clear whatever data, from the previous collection to make it fresh? Then I'm going to copy this and place it here and just remove whatever there before. And I'm saying, okay, let's set button B because A already been used. If B is pressed, clear the log for me. So go back to data logger and delete the log. The code has been downloaded onto my microbit. I'm going to start this A button to start data logging. So now I'm going to go to my file manager, go to microbit, and go to my data. So I have collected some data before. I want to clear the log. I can click here, or I can press this button. And then to update the data, I would have to unplug it and plug it back in. So the data has been clear, and during that time I have been collecting something. Now the data collection has been reverted to before the data is collected, so I need to press that again. I can now analyze it visually. So I can isolate for the first data, one data or the other, and I can copy the data to analyze elsewhere. I can download that as a CSV file in order to analyze it elsewhere.